On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, what's in the bowl? What's in the bowl? You know what's in the bowl. It's a bunch of potential wing targets for the Raptors this summer. We're going to talk about them coming up on today's show. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, May the 31st, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the Hell website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. And of course, you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, which is the place to be, baby. The link is in the description of the podcast. It's free to join. It's a great little community we got building around the show, talking playoffs, talking draft, talking Raptors off-season stuff, talking movies, talking video games. It's all going on in there. It's a great place to come hang out with people just like you who love the show, who love the Raptors, and want to talk about the Raptors on a place on the internet that doesn't suck. Would love to see you there. Of course, you can find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Always appreciated when you support the show. However it is you choose to support the show, you can also go and find us on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. And when you do that, you can hit the notification bell. When you do that, you will get a heads up via push notification every single time the show is about to go live. Thank you very much for doing that. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba. Use the code all lowercase LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. And with that, let's get rolling on today's show. We are joined by our pal Jamar Hinds from Raptors Republic, the god of the game recap. He is here to play another round of Wing Madness, where we've got the bucket full of names. We're going to pull wings out one by one as though we're at the pub on a Monday night having half-price bad boys. And we are going to put 3 minutes on the clock, 90 seconds each, to give our case for or against each of these potential wing targets for your Toronto Raptors. Jamar, welcome in, my friend. How are you, man?
I'm pretty good. The game recap god with no game recaps to do. So I've never played this game before, so I'm excited to see how this turns out, see how quickly I can give my take.
Let's this really is all about just being able to fire off indiscriminate takes right off the cuff. It's like improv class, but for basketball. All right, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put some time on the clock. We're gonna go 90 seconds each. When the buzzer goes, which of course comes in the form of a little duck sound on my phone, you will have to stop giving your point, and then I will interject with my thoughts. So let's pull out the first name here and get things rolling as we sift through the little bucket. Thank you, IKEA, for providing this bucket. And, oh, baby, this is perfect because you, my friend, are a Denver Nuggets fan, so you will have all sorts of takes on this guy, Mikal Porter Jr., a potential trade piece for a cash-strapped Nuggets team. Maybe they really want to keep Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Maybe they want to sort of spread the love a little bit, get some more guys in there beyond just Mikal Porter Jr. who can offer that three-point shooting and just give them some more depth. Let's see here. Jamar, what's your take on Mikal Porter Jr. as a Toronto Raptors potential target? And, of course, you are a Nuggets fan, so you have all sorts of influence on this one. 90 seconds on the clock. Go.
Well, I think that's a lot of salary to match because I think he's now either in the third or fourth year of a 5-year, $200 million contract. So yeah, that'd be a lot of salary to match for the Raptors. Mm-hmm. I don't see this one happening because I also don't think Denver is going to do a knee-jerk reaction in MPJ this offseason. Although, yes, you did say they are cash strapped and, they need to figure out if they're going to pay KCP or not. From a Raptors perspective, obviously they need more shooting. But yeah, I don't see this fit anywhere with guys like, right now their team being RJ on the wing, and I feel like they could do better with contract wise. Mm-hmm. Pay MPJ $40 million a year, because that's basically where you're going to have to pay to match salaries. And yeah, you could give Bruce Brown his option and then send him back to Denver as part of that deal. But then it's like, how do you come up with the rest of the salary to match? That just doesn't seem like a fit to me. Yeah, I mean, they love the shooting, they love the rebounding because the Raptors are weak in that category too. Just see what they did before Porto. But yeah,
the Duck has spoken. Your time is up. I have 90 seconds on the clock to continue. I'm with you, Jamar. I think it's a pretty unrealistic one overall. I think there's some merit to it. I think having another dude who's just like a full-on dead-eye knockdown three-point shooter on super high volume would be really valuable. We've seen what Michael Porter Jr. can do playing around a best player who is passed first and who draws a whole lot of attention. Not to say Scottie Barnes is anywhere near the stratosphere that Nikola Jokic is in, but similar sort of fit, I think, between the two. If you were to put them together, we've seen Scottie have great success with all kinds of dead-eye shooters early in his career, most notably Gary Trent Jr. Their on-off numbers are always very good. Him and Grady Dick have some quick chemistry early on. It could be a fit. I think defensively, it's kind of hard to justify. I know Michael Porter Jr. has made some strides as a defender, but I don't know if you'd classify him as a pure lockdown wing guy. And I think you need to have that in between Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett. And yeah, at $40 million a year, it's a lot. You could do the Bruce Brown thing. And of course, the Raptors have avenues. If they don't bring back Gary Trent Jr., for example, to have a little bit of money to work with, you could probably finagle it where you bring back more salary than you send back to the Nuggets in return. Of course, the Nuggets have to be careful if they're over the second apron. They actually can't do that kind of non-matching trade. They have to do basically dollar for dollar trades. And so that's a tough consideration. Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher, or Kelly Olynyk, a pick or two for Michael Porter Jr. That's probably not enough to justify it. And the Duck has spoken. I think there's some interesting ideas there, but for me, Michael Porter Jr. probably doesn't quite match up for the Raptors with where they're at right now. You're locking into a very expensive team that still has notable weaknesses on the wing if you're taking Michael Porter Jr. on. And let's go now, before we hit a break, one more guy. Let's pull it out. What do we got here? The next guy we have here, not necessarily a wing, although plays like a wing, Alex Caruso. Of course, all of these names that are in the bucket were submitted by listeners of the show in the Locked On Raptors Discord. So, if there's guys who are not wings, not our fault. It's the Discord's fault. Blame them. Alex Caruso, I think, can moonlight sort of as a 3 once in a while. Jamar, 90 seconds on the clock. Thoughts on Alex Caruso, who's on an expiring contract going into this summer for a Bulls team that is weird. What do you think of Alex Caruso as a potential fit? Go.
Well, I think Caruso can qualify as a wing. You see him play the 2, the 3, sometimes even the 4 when they go small, which is kind of weird. But as far as a fit, having a lockdown defender on the wing, I think that would be great. It is kind of interesting to see what kind of money he would command after this season because, there's been a lot of interest in Caruso over the last couple of years. And you mentioned the Bulls being weird. Like, no one knows what the Bulls are doing. They've been staying pat forever, even though their ceiling seems to be just a play-in team. There's even rumors about, re-signing DeRozan to a lot of money. Levine is still there. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but yeah, from a Raptors perspective, it would be great to have a lockdown wing alongside, RJ and Quickly and guys like that, because right now, obviously, since the departure of OG, they're kind of lacking that on the wings. He can also sneakily shoot it a little bit well from beyond the arc in certain spots. So, he still brings a little bit of athleticism to the table. Is this actually doable? I don't really think so. I wonder what his current contract is.
He makes for one more year $9.8 million.
Okay, $9.8 million. Okay, so
the Duck has spoken. Unfortunately, but I heard
the Duck this time.
Hell yeah! I think I know where you were going with this. Making $9.8 million, it makes like the money and financials of a trade actually pretty attainable for the Raptors in a few different constructions, right? I think, you would have the option of a Chris Boucher contract going out. He makes $10.8 million next year. That's a close enough match. You could sort of put together the contracts of Jalen McDaniels and Ochai Agbaji to be the salary going out. Obviously, you'd have to add a lot of draft compensation to that to make it worth it. But I do think there's something here. I think it's tough because you have to pay Alex Caruso in a year. He's going to be 30 this coming season. Do you want to be paying, a guy who really just kind of popped offensively for the first time just this past season? How real is that? How much is that going to be an outlier for his career? Of course, he's a guy who's made 2 straight all defense teams, first team last year, second team this year. He would be, I think, a pretty incredible fit playing alongside quickly in the backcourt. Yeah, you'd have Barrett at the 3, but you would have Caruso to be your sort of lockdown guy to really hound opposing lead guards and wings. Maybe you'd like a little more size with him on wings, but he would instantly be the best defensive player on the Raptors. I think it makes a ton of sense from a fit perspective. And, there will probably be some sort of bidding war for his services, and contenders are probably going to pony up a lot if he's available. But if you're the Raptors and you're sitting there on draft night or sort of after the first round, you have pick 31, you have that extra Pacers pick in the future. Maybe you kind of dip into that surplus supply you got from the Pascal Siakam trade, offer up 31, the Pacers pick in 2026, and the salary matching. And if they take it, great. If not, it is what it is. But I think it's worth at least a call because Alex Caruso would be pretty awesome on the team. The Duck agrees. We're going to leave it there, come back on the other side, Jamar, and get into a few more potential wing targets for the Raptors and whether they make some sense. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, the single best place to play daily fantasy sports. We love Prize Picks. They're wonderful, and it's because it's just the way Prize Picks daily fantasy should be. All you're doing is picking against the stat projections for given players and saying more or less. 2 words. It's that simple. You're not up against some shadow expert with an incredible roster they put together in their basement that you can't beat. You're not up against thousands and thousands of opposing lineups. No, it's just you against the projections and your own ability to predict more or less for players on those projections. Get in on the playoff action. Win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during the basketball postseason. The NBA Finals are coming up. You've got Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, all kinds of players you can take those more or less picks on and go do it at Prize Picks in the easiest and most fun daily fantasy sports app there is. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's the promo code LOCKEDONNBA when you download the Prize Picks app, wherever you get your apps. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, back at it here with Jamar Hinds from Raptors Republic. Before we continue digging into our bucket full of wings, a reminder, Locked On Sports Today 24/7 is your all-day streaming channel for you to go peruse, as it's just a 24/7 stream of Locked On shows covering the biggest stories in sports. You want Stanley Cup Finals talk, you got Locked On Panthers and Locked On Rangers over there. You want NBA Finals talk, you got Locked On Mavs and Locked On Celtics, Locked On Wolves for the postmortem on their season after going out sad to the Mavs last night. It's all there for you. Locked On Sports Today 24/7. Go check it out. And don't work all day. Just watch Locked On Sports Today 24/7. All right, Jamar, let's continue on. We have the magical, mystical bucket full of wing names submitted, of course, by our dear Locked On Raptors Discord server members. And let's pull another one out. What do we got here? We have, not a wing. So good job, Discord. But we can talk about this guy anyway. John Collins. Okay. John Collins, big man, Utah Jazz, kind of always seems to be in a state of wanting to be traded by the team that employs him. Maybe not the greatest of signs. He makes a lot of cake as well. He's making north of $25 million for the next couple seasons. I think I might know the thoughts on this one here. Of course, the Raptors need some big man help, but do they need the big man help in the form of John Collins? Jamar, 90 seconds on the clock. Take it away.
Yeah, definitely not a wing. The Collins situation is weird because he was on the trade block with Atlanta for numerous years in a row. And when you say that, he's always wanting to be traded, I feel like a team always wants to get rid of him too. Because that's what I meant I framed it terribly, but it's usually the team who employs him is always like, how can we get rid of this guy? Yeah, exactly. And even his first year with Utah, like halfway through the season, you started hearing those rumors where they wanted to get rid of him too. So at some point you got to be like, okay, I think it's him. I don't think it's the team. I think it's him. His shooting has decreased. I feel like he was a better shooter a couple years ago. Yes, he is super athletic. But for his money, I feel the fit would be relatively awkward in Toronto alongside Scottie, and I don't feel like he's a guy that could play the 5. He would have to play the 4. So I just feel like it would be a weird fit. And just totally different player, but we just had this whole convo for years. And it's like, oh, Pascal's a 4 and Scottie's a 4. Well, how are they going to fit together? Well, I don't see how John Collins would be that much different considering they play the same position. So, yeah, I'm totally out on this. Yeah, I don't even think I need the extra time. I'm totally out on this. It just doesn't really make much sense at all from a Raptors perspective. I think I heard it.
Well, that's perfect because the duck is speaking right as you finish your point there. That's just great time management on your end. Fantastic job. You should coach NBA teams late in games. So my thought, 90 seconds on the clock for me, John Collins. Yeah, it's a hard no, man. 26.85 million bucks. Sorry, it's 26.58 million bucks this coming season, and then a player option for that same amount in 2025-26. Something tells me he's picking up that player option, and for me, that's too many years of John Collins. The fit is just not there. He does not do the things the Raptors need from a theoretical third big man. They need switchable defense. They need someone who can play at the 5 in lineups with Kelly Olynyk. That is not something John Collins does. If Kelly Olynyk weren't on this team, I could say, okay, maybe like a decent, okay, reserve sort of sixth man type big. But again, I just think at that money, it's way too much. And I don't think he's necessarily like a winning player. I don't think you put him into the Raptors lineup, even as a starter at the 4, and like, okay, this team can go win a lot of games. A Collins, Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett, 2, 3, 4 would be disastrous defensively, barring some kind of level up from Scottie Barnes as an on-ball guy. It would also move Scottie out of his best position on defense, which is that low man help side thing where he comes over and blocks shots, and it would force him to play at the 3 and be that wing stopper, which is a lot to ask of the guy who's the most important player in your offense. It's a hard no for me. I know a lot of Raptors fans have been like, ooh, John Collins, he's shiny. No, he's not. He's just not a particularly good player if you want to be a serious basketball team. Maybe that's harsh, but it's a hard no. The duck has spoken. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go. Next guy coming out of the bucket is, already did that one. Sorry. Did I put a couple extra MPJs in the bucket to ensure we talked about him with Jamar here? You'll never know. Next one here. This one's fun. This one's probably unrealistic, but if you're talking pie in the sky targets, this guy might be the single most delicious pie in the sky. Mikal Bridges of the Brooklyn Nets, who may or may not be going into full down tear down mode, courtesy Joe Tsai's comments of earlier this week. Who knows what the hell's going on that team? I never know what's going on with the Nets. The Nets are this weird, much like this mystery box, a complete enigma. Woo! As I rattle things around and break my setup. Mikal Bridges, 90 seconds on the clock. What you got here, Jamar?
Let's be real. Bridges is like that meme with watching everybody below. All his Villanova boys are in New York, and he's just kind of watching. Well, I mean, like technically he's in New York too, but he's just watching all of them and just wants to be a part, and he just can't get there. Obviously, it would be an amazing fit. We've seen him in a smaller role in Phoenix, excel as like a wing shooter, a great defender. I think the defense has fallen off a little bit, which is to be expected with added offensive responsibility in Brooklyn. But I think he's actually handled that a little, as good as you can. I think they've gotten as much as they could ask for from Mikal. From the Raptors' perspective, yeah, it would fit great alongside RJ to have that wing defender, a great shooter, can take on some offensive responsibility if he needed to. I don't know how they get that deal done. If Brooklyn wants to blow it up and, finally start a rebuild, which I feel like they might be leaning in that direction, how much would a guy like Mikal Bridges cost to send back? I feel like that would be extremely expensive because how old is he? Like 27, 28, something like that. I think
he's 20. This will be his age 28 season.
So, yeah, he's still young enough where he would command a lot of assets back. And I don't see how the Raptors make that one work. I'm sorry if I feel like I'm saying to every single one of these. I'm not trying to be that boring person. I'm just more of a realist. And there's the duck.
There's the duck. Look, I think your point's well made. It's pretty unrealistic. the fit would be absolutely glove-like and perfect. And holy crap, I can't stop thinking about this. And to me, as my clock, I gave myself 10 extra seconds, but I'm the leader of the podcast. I can do what I damn well please. I'm a tyrant. But when it comes to Bridges this summer, I don't think the Raptors are going to go nut and offer a whole bunch of picks and stuff for a big swing trade. It just doesn't feel like they're kind of at that spot right now. And they're in a place where they can kind of just let things breathe a little bit and see what happens. That said, they created a lot of extra flexibility for themselves financially with the trades of Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges makes $23.3 million next year and is under contract again for 25-26 at under $25 million. That is, I think, a pretty clear high value contract for whatever team has Mikal Bridges. And then you figure out the UFA thing in 2 years' time when he'll be 30 years old. That's an interesting thing. Another thing for another day. But if you're the Raptors, like if there is someone who you're going to go and splurge on and say, all right, we've got the Bruce Brown contract. Maybe we sweeten things with Grady Dick. We have the 19th pick and the 31st pick. We have all of our picks in store now. Then now that we've conveyed the pick to San Antonio, like if there is a guy you're going to go and offer multiple picks and swaps for, this is the one. He would fit absolutely beautifully on this team. And I think you got to at least make the call. There are probably other teams that have more stuff to offer. The Rockets have the 3rd overall pick, for example, and all of the Nets picks that they're dangling out apparently all over the place. That's probably where he ends up, or some other contender, the Sixers, something like that. But this is the guy, if you're going to make a swing, that you make it for this summer. If you're the Raptors, I rest my case. We will come back on the other side, Jamar, and round it out. We'll get to 3 more guys to close things out. We'll do it coming up in just 1 second. Back at it here with Jamar Hinds from Raptors Republic. God of the game recap as we continue on breaking down dudes from our mystery bucket of guys. So again, all wing targets here for the most part, unless John Collins is getting submitted by people who are confused in the Discord. We love you, Discord. You're all maniacs. Okay, Jamar, we'll run through 3 more here to round out the show. This one's fun. Our first free agent of the day, an unrestricted free agent from the New Orleans Pelicans, Naji Marshall. Naji Marshall, Jamar, 90 seconds on the clock. What you got on Naji Marshall?
I feel like it's probably realistic if the Raptors wanted to get him. Obviously, this is the first free agent we're talking about, so we don't have to worry about trades and who we're sending back and stuff like that and giving up picks that we just finally finished giving up picks. But I feel like he could definitely help in a reserve role. He can shoot a little bit. He can defend a little bit. It's definitely the most realistic option that we've had so far. It wouldn't surprise me to see him on the Raptors if the salary works out. He's probably a guy that just doing a rough guess that could probably command somewhere between 8 and 10 million a year. If it were more than that, I think I'd be a little bit surprised. But yeah, I feel like he was pretty decent in New Orleans rotation last year. I'm okay with this one. I'm not too big on Marshall in terms of like an expert of what he does, like what he brings to the table. But from what I saw, just from the eye test, I think he could fill a viable role for the Raptors. So I can see this one.
Wow, you got it in under 90 seconds. That's just good podcasting, man. That's concise, that's direct, it's to the point. 90 seconds for me. Yeah, Naji Marshall, I'm not against this idea at all. You're probably right. 8 to 10 million bucks feels like the sweet spot. It should be noted, right? Like he's had 1 season of being a good 3-point shooter in 4 years with New Orleans. He shot 38.7% this past season on just 2.3 attempts a game. I'm not really sure the 3-point shooting is real or all that viable with him. But as like a bench wing, I think you could do a whole lot worse. I think it's like spot starter maybe, but I think that's probably overextending him a little bit. Right. And but just to have like an extra depth of wings, some different lineup versatility, a guy who can kind of fill in those second units, which feature a lot of Kelly Olynyk and Grady Dick. Having someone with a little bit of like edge to them on the defensive side of things could be really helpful to making those lineups a little bit more balanced. Like you said, very realistic. They could go and do this. If they have the mid-level exception, you can give a chunk of it to him. If they have cap space, if Gary Trent Jr. or Bruce Brown walk, you could kind of split the cap space up, that you'll have $28 million or so at the high end between multiple guys. And Naji Marshall, certainly there's a case for him being one of those guys. Maybe it's like a Caleb Martin, who we talked about on Wednesday, and Naji Marshall tandem. You throw your whole cap space at those guys, and then you go ahead with those extra wings as opposed to Bruce Brown and Gary Trent Jr. I think it's an interesting one for sure. It's not sexy by any means, but also his nickname is Knife. Get a guy whose nickname is Knife. That's a cool nickname, and I think says a lot about his game.
I did not know that.
It's pretty rad. We'll come back. No, we're not going to come back. We're still doing the podcast. What am I talking about? I got into break mode. We're well past that. 2 more guys. Let's pull out our penultimate guy today. Oh, God. I don't know why someone suggested this. Technically, he's a wing. Is he an NBA player? Is he an apparition? The way he plays defense, you might think he is. Tobias Harris, unrestricted free agent. Okay, 90 seconds on the clock. Go ahead, Jamar.
Okay, so Tobias, I don't think he provides what you would want defensively.
No?
You scared me for a second because I thought you legitimately disagreed. And I was legitimately confused. But yeah, I mean, Tobias is okay. I just feel like he's not going to provide what the Raptors want. At his best, he'll give you somewhere between 15 to 18 points a game. He'll give you some decent shooting. He has some random disappearing acts. He was
random,
I feel like he was
extremely routine.
That also I feel like he was miscast with pretty much his whole new contract with Philly as like a third option. I don't think he's a third option. He definitely wasn't filling the Jimmy Butler role. Tobias Harris over me? Nope, definitely did not work out that way. He's on the other side of 30 now. I don't see why the Raptors would pay. What is he going to command? Like probably he might try to get over 20 mil. Why would you spend over 20 mil on Tobias Harris? An older guy, a guy that doesn't fit your needs, a guy who is a turnstile defensively sometimes. It just makes no sense. A guy who plays a similar position to Scottie, like that would be his natural position at the 4. Makes no sense in any aspect to me, except the fact that he can shoot occasionally. That's the only thing that we would bring to the table. Just he's a better fit on a different team. Okay, I went over. I went under the last time, so we're trying to balance it out.
This is fair. I just didn't know you had 90 seconds worth of Tobias Harris takes. Frankly, impressive. For me, starting the clock, this is like such a hard no. Ask any Sixers fan what they think about Tobias Harris, and that should be your answer to this question. I think, there's a world in which you get, I think $20 million. Like, I don't know what team is giving Tobias Harris 20
Detroit.
Million. It's always Detroit, isn't it? It's always best of luck to them with that. He doesn't address the core needs that they need from a wing. He would, be forced to be the lead wing defender. That's a bad place to be. A Harris and Barrett, 2-3 on defense. Have fun with that. That would be kind of a nightmare. The 3-point shooting is fine, although we dropped back this year just to 35%. And he's just like not a playoff player, which I know is not a problem the Raptors need to worry about necessarily just yet. They have to get to the playoffs first before sorting through that type of stuff. But if you have designs on being a competitive team in the next few years with Scottie Barnes, I don't think that Tobias Harris helps you once you eventually do get to the postseason. And so, barring like a 1-year mid-level exception signing because there's no other options out there, I don't think Tobias Harris makes a lick of sense for the Toronto Raptors. And I am going to cut myself short with 15 seconds on the clock because we don't need to talk about Tobias Harris anymore. Last guy, let's pull one out of the bucket here. Who do we have? Oh, another Brooklyn net. Maybe a little bit more attainable than Mikal Bridges. Cam Johnson. Again, we have no clue what the hell the Brooklyn Nets are trying to do, what they want to do, what their intention is. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Are they going to try to, lure stars again? That seems to go really well for them all the time. What you got for Cam Johnson of the Brooklyn Nets as a potential fit for the Toronto Raptors? You got 90 seconds. Go.
I'm okay with this one. I think he's probably outside of MPJ, but I would say on this whole list, he's probably the second best shooter on this list that we've gone through so far. Defense can be spotty. I think he would fit decently well with RJ, though, if you're just thinking offense on the wing, just to provide another shooter. I don't know his contract.
3 more years. He makes 23.6 this coming season. 25-26, it goes down to 21 as the Nets are very transparently trying to line up their cap space for that summer, then back up to 23 for 26-27. So 3 years and around 22-23 per year.
Okay, it's a little bit more than I thought, but it's still doable. Is this a move the Raptors would make? I don't really know, because again, if we're talking defensively, he doesn't really check those boxes, in my opinion. I don't know if you defer on that, but I mean, from an offensive perspective, I'm always looking at shooting because the Raptors have lacked shooting over like the last 3 years. Just check the numbers. I mean, or watch a couple games. They've sucked at shooting over the last few years. So I'm always looking at that as like my number one priority. But you have to look at the defensive side as well. And I don't think he matches those boxes with. Damn it, that duck.
The duck has spoken. I'll pick up the thread there. Yeah. For Cam Johnson, I think it's fine. I think it's like he sort of falls into the DeAndre Hunter category for me, who I talked about on Wednesday's show, where it's like, okay, all of your other options have been exhausted. All right, let's maybe swing a deal for this guy to be kind of a stopgap. I don't think you should be under any illusions that if the Raptors are to go to trade for Cam Johnson, that he's like the long-term wing solution of the future. But as a stopgap to ensure that there's just a little bit more size, a little bit more shooting, a little bit more positional length to this team, I think you could justify it. He doesn't make a ton of money, and three-point shooting is valuable. Three-point shooting at 6'8" or 6'9" is also valuable. He probably is a tradable guy for the next couple seasons as well, especially when his contract dips down a couple $1 million for 2025-26. I think it keeps your flexibility. It keeps a movable contract on the books, and it gets a guy in the door who can help address some of your weaknesses. I don't think he addresses them all. Like you said, I don't think he's like a shutdown wing defender or anything like that. He's probably better right now than RJ Barrett, and maybe even better as a wing defender, like sort of on the ball, than Scottie Barnes. So you throw him in there, you roll it a starting 5 of Quickly, Barrett, Johnson, Barnes, and Pirtle, and you probably feel pretty good about that. He sort of replaces Gary Trent Jr.'s shooting in this situation with a little bit extra sort of size. So I could see that working. And what does it cost? Like, is Bruce Brown plus pick 31 enough? It could be. That contract's not amazing by any means. And it would free up a little bit more sort of long-term cap money for the Nets as well, as they look to get off their sort of cap restrictions going into 2025 when they hope to be a free agency team. So yeah, Cam Johnson, not sexy, fine as a stopgap, was actually being talked about in the Locked On Raptors Discord today. So glad we talked about him here, but yeah, not like something I'm over the moon about. But of the guys we've talked about today, one of the better fits for sure. Jamar,
hold on before I just like how we've hypothetically sent Bruce Brown back to Denver and hypothetically sent Bruce Brown back to Brooklyn. So.
They love him, man. They love him where they love him. Send him where he's beloved, and all will be happy and rosy and good. That feels like a good place to leave this one, Jamar. Thanks so much, as always, for hanging out with me and putting up with my nonsense. Thanks for playing with the game. It was a good time. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
I have absolutely nothing to promote. Just great sell here. Just follow me if you want at Jamar BH, Jamar BH, to people who are listening. Yes, I had to think if I spelled my name right. Yeah, I spelled my name right. See, yeah, amazing sell. Probably the worst sell I've ever had in terms of what I'm doing outside of this pod. Or yeah, I'm just gonna shut up now.
That's cool, man. We love Jamar. Go back and read the back catalog of game recaps if you want to relive this past Raptors season, you can go and do that if you're a sick person, or just, follow Jamar and rock with him on the internet. It's always good stuff. Jamar, thanks as always, buddy. Thanks to you, the listeners, for tuning in. Very much appreciate you rocking with us and supporting the show. Lots more draft content coming up. We'll get some good guests on probably next week as well, as we continue to fill the void left by Vivek Jacob, who is traveling the world with the Canadian Cricket Club for the World Cup, which is awesome. But yeah, we got lots of good stuff planned. Draft, trades, etc. More stuff from the bucket, the magical bucket, of course. And we will leave you off there. Again, follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Always appreciated when you support the show on audio and video. You can also go and join the Locked On Raptors Discord server. The link is in the description of the podcast. We would love to see you in there. And perhaps when I do this same exercise, but for big men, you can submit some names, and just don't submit guys who are guards and not big men, like whoever put John Collins in thinking he was a wing. I love you. Bye. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you Monday. Thanks for hanging. Ta-ta.